mind sharing what your annual revenue was last year as a signing service?
Yeah, I mean, our company, I'm so grateful. Our company has been able to bring in $500,000 in 1 year. That was our 2023.
Alrighty, welcome back to the channel. In today's episode, we have an amazing guest out of Sacramento, California. Notary signing agent turned signing service owner, incredibly successful, Chenelle Hernandez. Welcome to the podcast.
Thank you for having me.
Happy to have you. And if it seems like I just saw you, it's because I did just see you last week in San Diego at the Ambassador for Loan Signing System Retreat / Mastermind, which was incredible. And so many good notes from that. What was one of your favorites that you could think about and share? I know I didn't preface this question.
All the information about leadership.
Oh my gosh, yeah,
Yeah.
there's so much good stuff. I think one of my favorites was giving full compliments to your team instead of half compliments, like way to go, but not saying why. You said way to go. So
100%. That was my biggest actionable takeaway that I've already started implementing.
Awesome. Love it. Well, today, actually, you are guinea pig for me. This is actually episode number 1 where we actually are doing it podcast style. Up to now, it's been talking head. Brad talks all the time. So I'm going to enjoy the and interview an incredibly successful entrepreneur. So my audience can see what that looks like. And I'm East Coast. I'm a guy. You're West Coast. You're a girl. So I think that's a good balance. So we'll see how this goes. But I'm going to bring as much value as I can, serve up questions to give you actionable items as notaries to implement on your day-to-day business, both as a signing agent and also from the perspective of 2 signing service owners. So you will enjoy this. I promise you. No pressure.
Yeah, absolutely. No problem. I love hanging out with you.
Awesome. All right, so I'll get it started. I'm actually on this one. I'm going to give a little bit of just a personal journey, a little bit of background, kind of like Mark Wills does on some of his episodes, as well as your business journey, and just mix both so people can kind of relate that have similar backgrounds and see that it really doesn't matter where you come from. You can be successful from any background. It's really about your mindset. But getting into that, where are you from? I know you're in Sacramento now, right? But you were from somewhere else, right?
A little bit, yes. I was from California originally, but I'm from the Bay Area. So the Bay Area compared to where I am in Sacramento is about a 2.5 to 3 hour drive, depending on where you start and where you end up. So it's not exactly the same part of the state. We used to visit Sacramento. Some of my relatives lived up here when I was younger, but I didn't know a lot about it. And certainly I didn't know anything about the layout like a place when you're an adult and when you have children and when you're moving around. So Roseville, Sacramento is a completely new area for me as of 2020 when we came out here.
Got it. Okay. So yeah, it's a big switch. It sounds like city life versus very suburban area.
Completely. Add to that 15 years in between where I grew up and where I am now. I also lived in another state across the country. I did live in Georgia. So it's kind of south, kind of East Coast, kind of a little bit of both. And like I said, back here in 2020. So Sacramento isn't where I'm from. I grew up in Livermore, California, which we call the East Bay. It's part of the Bay Area, not right on the water, but a little bit inland.
Okay. And quick aside, is San Francisco dramatically different from when you were there, even 5 years ago?
Parts of it are not. And I think a lot of people that are from the Bay Area who grew up going to the city, as we called it, have a nostalgic feeling for it. And for me, at least, the nostalgic parts that I remember that I love going to, they're all still there. They all look the same. I love taking my kids there. They're enamored with the Golden Gate, visiting, the Marin Headlands. I mean, even the roads have changed. The way the roads wrap around the mountains now are a little bit different for safety. They've redone some of those roads. Though I love going out there. For me, it's still a magical place. You can probably understand a different perspective as a business owner who lives there. But a lot of people that have lived in San Francisco, I think they've lived there a long time. And I personally would love to invest there one day. I've always been enamored with the city. I think I always will be.
Yeah, it's beautiful. Baltimore City is beautiful too. And it is different when you're older, for sure, a different perspective. As far as high school, did you go, was it in Georgia or were you in California when you were in high school?
California. I grew up there. I went to high school in the East Bay, in Livermore. Our high school mascot was the cowboy. It was very ranchero. All my friends were into country music, so eventually I learned to love it as well, even though I didn't start out listening to country music when I was younger. High school was where I really fell in love with it. it was a pretty fun experience. I had friends in different friend groups. I wasn't in sports, but my friends were. I was in band. So I did a lot with marching band. I was a band geek. That
What did you play?
I started with trumpet.
Okay. All right.
I played trumpet for 6 or 7 years. I also dabbled with some other brass instruments like French horn, baritone, and three-quarters tuba. There were a couple of parades that I marched with a three-quarters tuba, which is really like a full-size tuba compared to me.
Mhm.
So it was pretty heavy. French horn I marched with a little bit, which is like this, but the trumpet was, you have to stand it. It's not considered a sport, but we practiced longer and more hours than the football team. So I considered it to be very similar to a sport.
Well, it's got to be, I mean, I'm used to working out and rock climbing, so that's got to be draining on your arms like this the entire time, like
the
locked on.
entire time the entire time, and you're remembering your notes and how to use your mouth and where your head is pointing, chin parallel to the ground, everything in place, uniform straight, all the things.
All right. Well, fun fact, I learned that just like everyone else did on the podcast, so that was fun.
Yeah,
Uh,
that's where I started with some of the structural discipline things that I do well when I have structure and discipline. When I don't, everything is a little out of sorts. I really like having those lines, those nice straight lines and everything in order. And that's when everything feels very comfortable and like it's working properly.
all righty. So were you very introverted, extroverted in high school? What do you think? I mean, you're a band geek, so
What
maybe
do
not.
you think?
I mean, band geek, I would say around your band geek friends, you had a blast, but I don't know. You tell me.
I was pretty extroverted, I guess is the word. I mean, introverted in the sense that I like processing things alone. I like to have time to let my brain synthesize more so when I'm alone, but extroverted in the sense that I like to talk to people. It can be draining. It takes a lot of energy, right? So I need to kind of recharge. And I've learned that about myself. I didn't used to know that. So I would just give and give and give and just be with everything to everyone. And I kind of still have that tendency, which is why building a business where I'm delegating can be hard. So that probably tracks for what you know about me. But I'm very, very friendly, very, gregarious and open. So I like to talk to different people from different walks of life. And that was the same in high school. I had friends that were cheerleaders. I had friends that were kind of band geeks, and people that weren't necessarily friends with each other, but they were friends with me. The people that were like misfits or the outcasts, those were definitely my friends. Anyone that was regular or anyone that was popular, those are all my friends. So I kind of just like made friends with everyone. I didn't really have any enemies.
Okay, well, that's probably good skill set to have, transitioning into business and making friends, but we'll get into that shortly. Um, college, did you attend college at all?
I did. So I graduated high school early. I was always kind of moving very quickly and progressing very quickly in all the things I ever tried. And I was done with high school before it was done with me. So I left early. I moved to Texas when I was 17. I did go back to walk with my class so I could join them for the ceremony and have a graduation party.
Mhm.
But I was already living in another state and sort of looking for other things. And because of that, I waited a year to start college so I could have residency out in Texas. And I did start a year later at a liberal arts college out there with the intention to transfer. When I started my first trimester, whatever it was called, of college in Austin, Texas, I also found out that I was pregnant with my first child at 18 years old. So I went to my first semester of college pregnant with my first kid.
Wow. Okay. I'm sure there
Mhm.
were a lot of things going through your mind at that point on time.
A lot, a lot. Yeah, I had been in this new state for over a year and I loved my independence. I love building a life on my own. I'm very good at it. I didn't need a lot of help from my parents or really any help. But when I became pregnant, I wanted to be closer to my mom again. It was like almost immediate. I wanted to be around her. So we made a plan right away. And even though I did that semester in Texas, I had already started the plan to move back home to California. So when I was 6 months pregnant, I actually drove a 17-foot U-Haul towing my BMW across the United States from Austin back to Livermore, California, so I could live closer to my family when my first baby was born.
Well, I'm glad family was there, and you were planning it from there. So that tells me, it was important to be around family, which I don't blame you. That's got to be challenging and daunting, just mentally. I was challenged and daunted when I first found out I was going to be a father, and I was like 30 something. So
There's no good time. It doesn't
It
matter
really isn't.
what's
It really
happening in
isn't.
your life. You could be set with a career. It doesn't matter how old you are. It's everything you think that you were going to think about it
Mm,
goes out the window,
yeah.
right? I mean, and then it comes in and you doubt yourself. You wonder if everything is going to come according to plan. And of course it never does. And you feel like you need plan A, plan B, plan C, and then the baby comes and it's a whole, you don't even know what to expect. So
All
crazy
right.
experience.
So transferred, went to college back in California, finished it up.
Continued college, never
Yep.
took a break. I stayed through college. Even though I was having a baby, that was very important to me. I stayed in, I had a, I always had jobs, I always had college. And ultimately, life happened and things kind of went back and forth. I ended up moving to Georgia, as I mentioned, when my oldest was about 2 years old, right around two. And I had other children as well. As some of you may know, I ultimately ended up with five altogether. Four of them were born out in Georgia.
Impressive, impressive.
So, yeah, by the time I had my third, I was pregnant with my third baby when I finally had done enough college to graduate, Phi Theta Kappa, all the ropes and everything around. But it was a liberal arts college. It was two associate's degrees. It took me 10 years to get two associate's degrees. With life happening and those moves and all the children coming and what that entails, I wasn't able to do the standard. At first I didn't take a break when I had my first kid, and eventually I did have to take breaks from college. So by the time I got the 2-year degrees and I did very well and had all these accolades, nobody cared. Like weren't really employers that were going to give me what I needed, and ultimately that didn't help me. And I had other life situations where even though I tried to go get that 4-year degree at the time, it didn't line up. It wasn't working with what I had going on in my life. And later, a long time later, fast forward down the road, I had some medical issues. And then getting into this business, I discovered that what I would have done with my degrees and my ultimate 4-year degree, I would not have had the upside and the potential that I have now as an entrepreneur. I didn't know that at the time, but that's really what I have discovered. So even though I still carried a little bit of, I don't want to say it was shame at first. Now it's not. It's more of just, oh, I kind of had wished I had been able to finish that. My family placed a high value of education my whole entire life, and that trickled down to me. So not having that 4-year degree or that master's or that PhD that the rest of my family has was kind of hard for me to mentally deal with. But now I'm the CEO of a nationwide company. So I have absolutely no shame about it whatsoever. And I understand now that college isn't for everyone. I still grew up in that mindset where you have to go to college. You don't matter if you don't have a degree, but then I learned that the hard work I did for 10 years turned out to be these pieces of paper that ultimately no one cared about. And I thought I had these great accomplishments. The pictures of me pregnant, graduating, I'm very proud of. I'm so proud of that because I know what life did and I know what I overcame to get to that point. So I'm very glad for that experience. It wasn't traditional. During my time in college, in that liberal arts college, I was asked to be a tutor because I was so good at teaching people. I wasn't looking for a job, but they asked me for that and to have a job. And then I created a position for myself within the college that no one even had. I kind of found an office and rearranged the furniture and I made it mine. So now looking back, I realized I was still an entrepreneur at that time. When I thought that I was doing the college thing, I thought that I was following this traditional path, but really I was making my own path the whole time.
I love it. I love the non-traditional journey because when I talk to a lot of entrepreneurs, it's like that. It's not this map, this straight point. It's literally I went here, then I went here, then I learned that wasn't working. I went here, and
That's a good way to
that,
say
that,
it.
that again, I learned a whole lot in this conversation. I did not know prior to, so I'm enjoying it. But great transition into how did you get started as a notary?
Yeah, I had a lot of different types of jobs before I was a notary, and immediately before I was a notary was a whole different life. With medical issues, I was not really able to work a full time or even a part time job for many years, for about 6 years in a row. I was kind of tired of that. As you heard before, those years of not working, I was very active, very ambitious. I always like to have jobs, multiple jobs, school, lots of things going on. So after 6 years of not working, it was daunting is a good word, or overwhelming to just be at home all the time and not be doing something with my energy and my skills, I started listening to podcasts. I was just typed in the word finance into Spotify. It took me down a rabbit trail, and I heard about this notary thing. I'm pretty sure it was Mark Wills the first time I heard it, loan signing system. I didn't hear anyone, I didn't know anyone in the real estate business at the time. So I'd never really heard of this, but it sounded reasonable. I looked into it in Georgia. It wasn't a very hard or long process to get started. Almost embarrassingly easy to get started. You basically paid $45 and you swear in, and you're a notary.
Yeah, pretty much.
So I learned a lot about being a notary when I came to California after I'd done hundreds of notarizations, because California had an exam and a course. So from that, I would encourage all notaries who are not required to take a course to become a notary, aside from our loan signing course that we have that we can offer, our your state has a handbook or some kind of courses somewhere, even if they're not required by your state. So try to take that. When I was in Georgia, I'm certain I was probably notarizing things slightly incorrectly, as I wasn't aware of what to do. But I did become a notary out there, became a signing agent, and the loan signing, of course, I was an expert in right away because I learned on loan signing system, and that I just followed all of the steps.
Perfect plug for Mark's course.
Hey, it
Link in the description.
and in my LinkedIn, it can't be more organic the way that I found it. You know, I was just looking for something different. It came up. I looked into my state. I went and I swore in. I mean, it's not like other types of companies where you have to go through that company to get a certification, or you have to go through that company to get your business, or go through that company to make your money. It's not the same. It's, to me, it's just like going to college. You pay the college for tuition and you learn something from the instructor. So I paid loan signing system for tuition. I'm learning from the instructors, the students, the ambassadors, you know, everyone. And that was my first experience with it. I was brand new and I had Miss Deborah Smith Owens as my first ambassador. So that's who I looked up to, right? Good role model to have. So
Yes,
I followed what she was doing. And then as I began my move to California, there were some ambassadors at that time over in California that I looked up to. So I looked up to other people that were doing it before me. I followed their steps almost exactly, while at the same time putting my own spin on things. And, you know, if something didn't jive, I didn't do it. Or if I didn't understand it, I just left it alone. And I kind of just took my own and ran with it that way.
Yes, buying back your time by buying other people's time. And so mentorship and training is so important in a business, because you can figure it out on your own, but it's going to take you a long time. And when you get in your 40s and later in life, you realize the most valuable resource is your time. So
Valuable, limited resource.
I agree.
Yeah.
Still is. Growing your notary signing agent business, did you have any failures? Did you hit any walls along the way as you were going through that process?
Sure, on both sides as an individual notary, and then later when I started my signing service, plenty of failures. I don't think there would have been another way to learn most of the things that I learned. I mean, notary mistakes, you know, you don't know what you don't know until someone tells you did it wrong.
Sure.
You can follow a thing to a T, but you still may not completely understand it until you're in there doing it, or until someone says, hey, let's do it this way instead. So definitely a huge learning curve, not only when I started out in Georgia, but then in California too. They operate slightly differently. And then I really got into higher numbers out here, 100 signings, 200 signings. I'm around 280, 300. I was like, oh, okay. Now I'm starting to understand what we're really doing, and all the different things that can happen, and why it's so important to drop on time, communication, like all these little details, how to work directly with escrow officers, what they really expect, all of that. It was definitely a big learning curve, which included, I mean, specifically, you know, missing things on documents, missing documents altogether because I didn't realize they were part of a package or what they meant.
Sure.
You know, and just not communicating things. If I missed something and I was asked to go back, I didn't fully communicate about when I was meeting again. And here you're going to make sure they knew they were going to have that correction, little things like that. So just, again, it's something that you can learn as much as you can from other people, and definitely try to be coachable and try to listen to it, but understand that you can't retain 100% of what you hear. And you can read books about going swimming, but until you get in the water, you really don't they can explain the arms and everything, but if you've never been in the water, it's not going to make a lot of sense until you get in there and try to figure it out. So it was kind of like that, and like anything new. And that's what I try to tell new notaries too, is you're going to fumble around. I fumbled around. We all did. If anyone tells you they were perfect from the beginning, they're definitely lying 100%.
Yeah, I agree. Experience is the best teacher. I thought I was an amazing driver at 18 when I first started driving. I'm I'm okay now, but yeah. So same thing with the notary, but you have to jump in. And to your point, you can't get that experience until you take the first step. And I think too many people are just worried about doing things perfectly or waiting for the perfect time, and they don't realize that there is no perfect time, and you will suck at the beginning. But that is just something you have to get used to and get over it. Everyone does. Everyone starts off at step one. So don't compare yourself to someone on step 10. Just get in, take action, and get training and get feedback is the other part. Is because if I asked you
Absolutely.
when you made mistakes, did you have to relearn from them again, or did you learn to never do them again? I'm sure your answer.
Yeah, I don't think I knew some of my mistakes like until I got to California. I remember my first mistake out in California. It was a very strange experience. I had an escrow officer actually cuss at me,
Oh,
and it was the first time I'd ever met this person, and she dropped the F bomb. And I understand now it's totally normal that we all cuss at each other. I didn't know at first. So warning, at least out here on the West Coast, it's very common, and sometimes it's very friendly, like, oh, I can't believe that happened, and there's like, little punctuation marks. But this was somebody who was upset about a thing, and she came out and used a cuss word at me, and I didn't react any kind of way, but it was certainly a learning experience, and that's why I'll never forget the mistake I made. And I'm certain that I didn't know that that was a requirement when I was in Georgia. By the way, it was writing your title after your name.
right.
I didn't have my name and title. I don't know if that's a requirement in all of our
It
states, or
isn't.
if
It
it's
isn't.
it's not. Okay, so I don't
That's why I didn't
know.
know. Yeah, because you can't.
Yeah, I don't know if that was a requirement in Georgia. No one ever told me about it before, but out here it was definitely a requirement, and I will never forget that. So, but I do try to let notaries know nicely when I find that on the scan backs.
Oh
Like,
yeah, that's definitely
can you
California.
please add this for me?
Yep.
No big
So
deal.
speaking of that, you're coaching notaries. When did you
Mhm.
transition into a signing service? When you were, I'm assuming when your hands were super full as a signing agent, is my guess.
That is part of it. It organically went that way. At first, I didn't think I would want to start a signing service. Although my main, I don't know if this is going to be another question. My main reasoning was that I have that history that I mentioned of having surgeries.
Okay.
So there are times when I can't get in a car and go do a signing to earn money for my family. So I really needed a safety net.
Yeah.
And at the time that I was kind of thinking about it, it was getting very busy. It was the refi boom, 2020, 21. I was in California. At the minute I got here, I took off. I mean, I was a 5 figure a month earner from the minute I got here,
Nice.
and I could only be in one place at one time. And during the refi boom, I had a lot of people that trusted me, and it was really hard to turn them down that much. So it was a little bit of the cliche story where I couldn't handle it on my own. So it did organically kind of blossom out. But it was kind of in the back of my mind, even before it got to that point, that I won't say I was nervous that it would happen. I just wanted to make a plan. I mentioned planning a couple times. After having these black swan events, I've had now a total of 18 surgeries altogether. It's not the normal thing that you expect to happen to you. And since it keeps happening over and over to me, I don't think this will be my last one. Now, it could be my last. Maybe I'll never have one ever again, but I don't want to think or hope that it's my last one without a plan.
Mhm.
So the idea of the signing service was always connected to me to the idea that I would have more surgery. I started loan signings in 2019, 2020. I had a surgery in 2020 as a single loan signing agent. And by the time I started my signing service, it was 21. I had a surgery in 21. I had a surgery in 22. 2023, I went without a surgery, but I do have a very painful condition that we're trying to figure out what's going on. So, luckily I had a whole, right now, I think we're at 15 months, 16 months since it's been since my last surgery. So I didn't know those next three were going to happen, but when I started loan signings, I knew my history.
Right.
So as a person who knows that planning can often, prevent suffering, that's what I wanted to do with my signing service. I wanted to have something in place. So even if it was minimal, even if it was bare minimum, I didn't expect it to grow to where it's at now. But even if it was bare minimum, I just needed to have a way to pay my bills without being able to get in the car.
And that makes perfect sense. And that's kind of the most important thing I like to share on this channel is that my goal basically for the channel is just to selfishly to get people to where if they're a notary signing agent, and they're beginning or intermediate to scale large enough where they can have that flexibility to spend time with the people that matter most to them and doing the things that they want to do, whether it's as a signing agent or as a signing service owner, which, in your case, just for fun, would you mind sharing what your annual revenue was last year as a signing service?
Yeah, I mean, our company, I'm so grateful. Our company has been able to bring in $500,000 in 1 year. That was our 2023. Before that, it was around 300,000. So again, like you shared your numbers, I watched your video. The margins are pretty similar. It's most of it, at least 2/3 or more, goes right back out to the contractors. That goes right back out to the notary. So we're starting our expenses with less than usually 30% or less of that total number. Then we start paying insurances, which we have at least 5 or 6 different insurance policies. And I don't know if you went into that detail, but we don't just have E&O. We have
Really?
E&O, we have commercial.
What
Yeah,
else?
I don't
What
know if you
else?
know.
What else do you have? Just
Oh,
curious.
okay. That's cool. So we have the E&O, we have general liability, we have workers' comp, we have some cyber insurance,
Okay. Good.
and I feel like I'm definitely missing one. Commercial auto, workers' comp, E&O, cyber, and then I think there's another one that I'm totally forgetting. And I think the next thing I need to do is like some kind of umbrella for the business because I'm probably missing something.
Yes. Yeah. Or
But yeah, but that's a lot. That's
or
already a
person.
lot,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah. Insurance is
Yeah,
definitely
and then of
okay.
course, all the other things that you listed were part of ours as well. We have staff, and then marketing expenses. So it does whittle it down. It's not that we have more money when we are, doing these bigger things, but we 100% are helping more people. I mean, it's just so crazy to think. Before I started out as a notary, my year, I did do a little bit of waitressing as I was learning this notary thing, and I earned $2 an hour, which is what they pay you out in Georgia, plus tips. So for one entire year, I earned $19,000 for the year. My husband that year, I think he earned around $43,000 for the year. That was our family's income before our bills or anything. And now I'm probably, I would say in 2 months, I'm giving out that much money to other people's families every 2 months. The amount that we used to take home in a year, we're giving that out to other people now because we've created this system where we get to hire our friends and, and like you said, coach new notaries and get notaries into the business. And I think, like you said, the flexibility that I found to have time with my family came with both. When I was an individual notary, I had that. We could go to the beach, we could, be sick and not worry about it, take care of our sick kids, pick them up from school. That came with being an individual notary, which is why I went all in on it. I thought that was the end game, and for some notaries it is. And then for me, the signing service just fell into place, and then boom, 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 I kept having surgeries just like I had before. So it really kind of was just a blessing that it all worked out for me in that way, and that signing service worked out for me. It came with a lot of unexpected stress, so I would caution people on that. But the benefits that we all talk about are totally true. So don't let that discourage you. Just be aware that there are, just like with the mistakes you make as a new notary, there's mistakes you make as a new signing service owner. So there's a lot of learning curves, there's a lot of moving parts, but altogether, I couldn't I couldn't say more about how this business has helped me and changed my life.
Love it. Yeah, I love it. And I love how, as you were realizing the surgeries were stacking up in the more recent years, is that, you know what, maybe if I scale the signing service a little bit more, I don't necessarily have to go back in the field and do signings. And just in case, that way my family's good. I have peace of mind, and let me hire some
Yeah,
people and make, an impact on our team's life, on the thousands of notaries that we're giving signings to throughout the year, their life. So the
right.
perspective I love that you drew that perspective of what you made in Georgia as a server, which I knew that
Yep,
because I was in restaurants for 22 years. Like in Maryland, it was like 238 an hour was the minimum wage for waitressing.
exactly.
Crazy. So
Crazy.
it's absurd, but I love the perspective that you gave. But yeah, so the impact is great. So it's not the $500,000 like, oh my gosh, it's just our impact gets to be bigger, but our
Right.
responsibility gets to be bigger as well. So
That's the thing. I mean, with how many more clients we take on, they all want their system done a different way. So every new client that we have, we can give out more signings, but we're taking on more work on the back end. We got to hire more staff. It's all totally worth it. I'm learning so many things like that. It's just definitely something that like people just need to consider as they're going into these business. Even just as an individual signing agent, you have to consider certain things. There's a small amount of a startup cost. You need to, if you're not good with time or time management, you have to kind of learn how to be, if you're not a very organized person, this job will help you become more organized, but it's also a good idea to learn from someone else who's, how do you keep your calendar straight? How do you keep your documents nice and neat? How do you keep your signings in order? Things like that, or it's something to think about as you're getting started.
I agree. And if you are going to go down that rabbit hole of starting a signing service, obviously, I always recommend Mark's next level course. It's a very niche product, isn't
100%.
advertising, but it's there. It's great. I'll also selfishly link my video on how to start a signing service in 2024 above.
100%.
But moving on, what are your thoughts on, is the notary business oversaturated? And if it is, does it matter? What are your takes?
I love this question. It's very telling about where a person is. And I don't mean this to put anyone down. It's just an observation. When someone says this is saturated, whether it's the real estate market, the notary job market, it tells me that they're discouraged and that they're not doing all the steps that they were taught by somebody else. I don't think any market is ever saturated. It may be true statistically somewhere for some things, but no market is ever void of really, really good anything, right? And the market's not saturated with good doctors. It's not, trust me, it's not saturated with good mechanics. It's not saturated with good notaries. If it was saturated with good notaries, I would never have a mistake from any of my signing agents ever.
Good point.
If it was saturated, think about when you saturate like a waffle with syrup, you can't fit any more syrup. It just starts going all over the place. It's soggy now, right? You don't have any holes. I would have no holes. I wouldn't have to worry about my system. I could probably fire some people because I wouldn't have so much work to do. It can't be oversaturated with good notaries. There's no way.
I like that waffle analogy. I'm stealing that, by the way, from my
Okay.
but yeah, I agree. So I always just call it the 80-20 principle. It's not as good as the waffle, but in every industry, doctors, like you said, there's 20% that will just clean up because they're that great, and everyone else is kind of in there getting the scraps. And it's the same thing in our industry too. The people that are always getting better, knowing that they're never fully educated, they can always get better. They can always treat their clients better, because if they don't, someone else will. So I agree. It's not new, this business, but the effort and the education and the drive and hustle is only held by about 20% of the industry, and they're the ones that will continue to clean up. And so if you're watching this channel, you are probably in that 20%.
100%. Yeah, you're totally right. There was a loan officer that I watched him do a speech the beginning of the year, and he was talking about how many loan originators left the business in, I don't know if it was 22 or 23, but it was like 40%.
Yeah,
of people. They didn't do a single loan in a whole year. So there's, just because there's 100,000 notaries in whatever area, it doesn't mean 80,000 of them are doing business. Like if you want to go with your 80-20, so you can't I would never ever let the word saturated just like fall right off. Like already be saturated in confidence and let that word just like roll right off you. There's no space for it because I don't even know how else to say it. It's just like, everything negative is a lie. And to me, saying something the market is saturated, it's kind of negative because it's limiting. So you just have to imagine that that's a lie and then just move on.
It's very limiting. And I'll end with this. I believe it's 100% a mindset topic, just because if you are confident that you are going to succeed, and if you fail, it won't be because of your lack of effort. It doesn't matter what you're getting into. If you have that mentality that you're going to go after it and knock down any wall that gets in your way, it doesn't matter what industry it is, you would just keep pushing and getting better. So moving on past the limiting mindset, so we don't like to talk about on the channel, but I will just say you will have to work for it. It's not easy. It's a business. It's not
right. 100%.
Brand new notary, friend of yours, gets started in the industry. What tip would you give them? And this is kind of stolen from Mark's channel, but I love the question.
Yeah, definitely dive in right away. Do not hesitate. Say yes to anything that comes your way and follow what other people have done. If you're brand new, don't try to make it your own. I mean, add your own personality, yes. Don't try to make your own system. Don't try to guess. Don't try to just say, oh no, that must be wrong if you haven't experienced it yet. Ask somebody. I would definitely say follow along what other people have done. Education is first. Some people are very extroverted, friendly, and they want to go out to networking events, and that's great. You definitely want to get your name out there, but as you're getting your name out there, make sure you're spending an equal or more amount of time on the education part and the experience part. You know, you can educate yourself with courses and listening to other people, but you need to go out and get that experience as well, because that way when you're marketing yourself to people, you will sound more confident because you'll already have done that part and you're just going to be more educated. The more educated that you are, it'll be evidenced in the way you speak to people, and they'll trust you more. So go out and get, and that doesn't mean wait. You could wait. I mean, some people might wait till they go out and get a bunch of experience with signings and then go to networking events. You could do it that way too. And I'm sure there's a mix of different ways that people can do it. You don't have to wait one to do the other, but just understand you may hit up against some walls a little bit if you're going to a direct title company and you've never done a signing before. You know, even if you don't say that you're brand new, they're going to know by the way you speak.
Yeah. I agree. It's rare. Usually 90% of the time it's people will focus on the practice before putting them in the uncomfortable position to market, to put themselves out there. 10% of the time you have the people that are just so freaking gung-ho about networking. There's actually one that comes to mind. It's in my state, who's on the loan signing system, 6-figure group, posting a lot. And I love her. She has so much energy. But don't forget the education piece, right? As you said, it will be pretty obvious. So try to keep up with both, but I agree. I love that advice.
Yeah.
As a signing service owner, what would be an amazing way to stand out to you to get your attention and or to be added to your preferred list?
Yeah, great. Just great communication, being very friendly. Definitely follow if there's a system that the signing service owner has provided as far as a way they like to be contacted, follow that. Every signing service may be slightly different. They may have their own portal instead of signing order or SnapDocs. They may have their own profile that you have to fill out. And if you haven't done that and then you call them, they're just going to send you to that portal. So go on their website or ask other people that have worked for them and find out what their process is and follow that. That's going to be number one, because if you don't follow our process and you're doing something differently, we're going to say, well, obviously they don't follow directions, so I don't need to work with them. Like when they hint, when you try to join my Facebook group, if you don't answer the questions 100% the way I went in there and I made them very specific. Right. And if you don't answer them the way that I have written them, I'm not going to even look at your answers. I'm just going to decline it. And even you might be a good notary, you might be a good addition to the group, but immediately from the get-go, you're not following instructions. And so I can't trust that you're going to be a valuable addition, that you're going to respect people in our group because you didn't respect us enough to read our rules. Yep. And I feel that way as a signing service owner. If, you know, and maybe I did this possibly even as a notary where I might have disrespected someone's system too, where if I didn't read the website completely and then I called them and it says on there somewhere, maybe don't call us. You know, I don't know. I'm not saying that's my process, but that could be someone's process. So number one, follow their process. In my case, I mean, in the beginning, I was able to take all the calls from notaries. I'm just not able to take them all anymore. And I don't want to hurt anyone's feelings, but we also do have the best for us is to go on our website. We have a kind of a basic form, but there's a little notary registration form. And if they enter their info there, there's a chain of events that happen. It triggers an email, it triggers the addition to our preferred list. You don't have to even have had a single signing to get on our preferred list. Technically, if you've done that, I already have somebody adding you. If you have your zip code and they can find you on signing order, if they can't find you on signing order, then you won't be able to be added. So if you already have a profile, number one, on signing order, Step number one. Two, you go to our website. Yeah, number one, and make it complete. I mean, they're going to add you to the preferred list, but that doesn't guarantee you're going to get a signing. Okay. If you're marked on my preferred list, but for example, you don't have a profile photo, you're not going to be looked at unless there's no other notaries in your area. So make sure your profile is complete on signing order. You'll go to our website, you'll sign up, you'll get on our preferred list. You can follow up with us with a phone call. I can't guarantee how much time I can give you or my assistant can give you. You're welcome to call us. A lot of companies that can set you apart. And even if it's just one quick phone call and we say, thanks for calling, we're probably going to remember that you called instead of someone else, especially if a signing comes back to your area in the next day or two and you had just called us. So I wouldn't discourage you from doing that. Just be respectful of someone's time. If they sound busy or if they ask you to please text them instead, text them instead. Got it. And then just to be clear, what is your website? So those that are watching this can pause and go to it now and sign up. mysuccessfulsignings.com. Love it. And guys, we'll link that in the description below, along with Chenelle's LinkTree as well. But unpause. All right, perfect. The advice. What are some things to avoid as a notary signing agent from your perspective as a signing service owner? Yeah, they definitely want to avoid not being personable. That can include arguing, being rude, being a know-it-all. I'd say above all else, it doesn't matter about education or anything. Be nice. Avoid being argumentative. Even if you really are convicted that you're right and the signing service is wrong, or the title company is wrong, or the signer is wrong, do not tell them they are wrong. Do not argue with them. Don't tell them that's illegal, I can't do that. Don't do that. Okay.
Right.
You can advocate for yourself. If something you truly believe is not legal in your state, there's a nice way to say it.
Sure.
If you can't make that time, there's a nice way to turn them down or to ask to be reassigned. I mean, there's, even if especially if you made a mistake, and they're telling you need to go back for a signature, no matter what, even if you've seen it before just fine without the signature, don't tell them the 100 times that you've done it like that in the past. If I'm asking you for something, it's because my clients have asked me for that. And I have done things for my clients that I know I've seen be fine, but my clients asked me to do it differently. And I did it that way because they asked me for that. And that means their clients are asking for that, or at least they think that their clients are asking for that. Very rarely will I tell someone, I really think it's okay like this, let's do it my way. Very rarely, even though I have a lot of experience and I know that I'm right, my client's always right. My customer's always right. So the first thing as a notary is don't argue, be very polite. And especially with signers, they don't understand everything that we do.
Sure.
The signers don't understand the industry. They don't understand how go that we can be. We're very last minute. The signers they don't want to be rushed. They want you to get on the phone and calmly explain things to them. If they're in a rush and they need to go quickly, they'll let you know, and then you can speed up. You can speed up your speech, speed up your phone call, speed up your signing. Otherwise, don't do that. Don't rush your clients. Always cater to them. And then, communication. So avoiding anything that can be seen as impersonable, negative, or giving anyone a bad experience. The overall thing that we're doing here is much like what you did in the hospitality industry. We're giving people a good experience. This is a very important transaction, and they might have had a bad experience in their past, and we don't want to be that for them. We want to be the one that they remember as, oh, that was a breath of fresh air. And then maybe they forget about us because we were so nice and they just forgot about it. So that's the number one. Avoid being too aggressive.
So you're saying it's a people business, is what you're saying.
It's a people business, and
in
it's
case you didn't know, notaries, this is a people business. It's a relationship.
If you don't like people,
business.
Do not apply.
I agree. It is a relationship business. If you don't want to talk to anyone, stick to DoorDash and Uber Eats. No offense, I've done both, but relationship business. So I agree. Would you rather be right or would you rather be rich? Always treat your clients right. I agree till I'm blue in the face. Okay.
Yeah, that's a number one. I mean, you don't have to do anything else past that, but specifically with signing service jobs, avoid asking for more money for certain things, for anything, to be honest. But there are some cases where it would be okay. I had one just last night that I didn't know there was a second loan. And I took the docs myself to the title company, and they were like, hey, you guys are not charging us enough for this. And I was like, oh, really? Oh, okay. I wasn't trying to, I was just, you want to avoid asking for nickel and diming things. Like if something took an extra 10 minutes, or if you had to print, if the escrow officer sent some extra pages that you had to print last minute. I've had notaries that they charged me for a parking fee, and they said, you have to, add $16 to my fee before I will drop at FedEx.
Holding the docs hostage. I love it.
Literally, they're holding them hostage. There is a term for that, notaries. We all talk about it in signing service business. When you ask for more money and you still have my documents, I'm going to give you the money.
Of course.
I'm going to give it to you every single time. So if you want money, go ahead and ask for it. But if you want more jobs, don't do that. Because here's what happens when you ask for more money. I'm going to give it to you out of my pocket, out of the rest of my signing fee. And I'm not going to go to my client and ask for more money. I'd say 99% of the time, I'm not going to ask my client for more money. I generally can't. Generally out here, we have allotments and disclosures and timeframes where after the signing fee has been disclosed to the buyer or the signer, the title company can't change that fee. They're not allowed to. So if anyone has to get more money, I'm either taking it from the escrow officer's pocket, the loan officer's pocket, and then I'm not going to get more business from them. So I'm not going to do that. So if you ask me for more money, I will give it to you. And I'm not saying you don't deserve it in certain instances. Sure. And if a signing takes 2 hours, okay, but it shouldn't take 2 hours. Number one.
Great.
I really get frustrated when a notary will call me after 2 hours and say they need more money because the signing took too long. Well, the signing took too long. That's really at the notary's kind of discretion of how long the signing should take based on their education and based on their desire to give the client a good experience. Every now and then I've stayed a little bit long, but even on a long signing, it's like an hour and 15 minutes. Really, it's not 2 hours unless there's some medical situation or something happening like that. And again, that's just something that we should plan for as even as an individual notary. I would go into a signing for 15 minutes, I'd make $100. And sometimes I'd go in there for an hour and I'd make $30, and that's just how it was sometimes. And so, you have to take it, like that. You can't ask the signing service owner for more money for something that is part of this business. If you have to print an extra file,
Right.
I'm happy to give you a print fee every now and then, but when you ask me for a print fee, that's coming from me, from the goodness of my heart, because I used to be a notary. That print fee is not coming from title. It's not coming from the loan officer. It's not coming from anyone else. And guess what? If you only get a print fee because a signing canceled, I get nothing at all. I get absolutely zero from my client. So if you ask me for a print fee for $25 for a file that costs you, $3 to print, like how big is a package, so there's just little things that are part of you. If you come into this business, understand there are costs. They even sign an agreement with us that states we don't cover parking fees, we don't cover tolls. That's part of you as an independent contractor. Those are your responsibility. I'm not an employer, so I don't reimburse you for fees.
There's a
And
write-off.
that's
There's a write-off.
and read the contracts. Read the contract. I avoid not reading the contracts that you are signing. There's a contract that you sign every time you open signing order for every new company that you work for, and it says that in there. And then they still ask me for the parking fee. And I can't say, guess what? You guys got me by whatever part you need to have me by, because I can't say no. Can I say cojones on here? I can't say no to them. If they ask me for a parking fee or anything, I'm not going to say that's against my terms. Go back and read the terms. Why? Because they still have my docs and I need my docs to make FedEx. I would rather pay them the $16 and not tell them that I'm right and they're wrong, because I need my client to get their documents. And that's what I'm going to do. And so I'm just going to eat it every single time you guys are like that. And then I'm not going to give you any more business. So just avoid being impersonable, rude, not understanding the business, trying to be in it for the money, nickel and diming us. We're small business owners. It's not like I'm Costco or Chase.
Right.
Every little $10, every little $25, every little $16, that adds up.
Yep.
That adds up for us. And there's other things that we do as favors to our clients all the time. So, avoid the nickel and diming, avoid being rude, avoid asking to be unassigned if you can.
Right.
If you're already assigned, even if like, oh, I hit it by accident, is there any way you can make it work? Because when you hit assign and we send it to you, that goes to our clients, and if we've worked with you before, a lot of times we might not call you first. We will call you first if we haven't worked with you. If we've worked with you a lot and you hit yes, we might just be sending it to you, and then our clients get notified of an email. And then if you find out you can't do it and then you tell us, it just looks very unorganized.
It does.
So try to avoid it. Offer us another time. Like, hey, something came up. Is it okay if I ask the clients to move it out to? A lot of times our clients are okay with that. It's not ideal, and ask us first. Don't just move the signing. And then really all the things that I'm already talking about and any other things I would tell you to avoid kind of go into communication. You want to over communicate in a lot of ways, but you want to make sure you know who the communication is going to. Be aware on the portals that you are signing on. Those comments can sometimes be going to our clients.
Yeah.
So if you're telling us something very specific or speaking in an unprofessional manner, those clients are seeing those comments. A lot of times our loan officers and our escrow officers are seeing those comments. So if you have something you want to say to us or something really uncomfortable happened at the signing, just call us. Get on the phone with us. We are always available. I have multiple people that have phones that are available to you almost 24 hours a day. So you can tell us what's going on. And then we know how to communicate it back to our clients. And don't try to handle a situation on your own. I've had a lot of notaries that don't call me at the table, and they will instead let us know afterward that somebody refused to sign. And that's not what we want. No. We want them to call us, get us on the phone. Exactly. We generally, Brad and I have had enough experience now where we can answer a lot of the questions the signers are going to have, because really when they refuse to sign, it's just a question they had that the notary couldn't answer.
That's it. It's knowledge.
Don't be afraid to get us on the phone. We don't think your questions are stupid. We don't think that the signer's questions are stupid. We would rather get on the phone and happily explain a form or a settlement statement to them so they feel comfortable. And I promise you, after 12, 20,000 signings, I don't know how many we've done, that we know how to speak to the client in a way that they will understand and they'll feel like they're talking to their loan officer.
I
I
agree.
know there's a lot. Just communicate.
No, there's a lot. Excellent, all excellent points. I don't really have much to add to any of them. I will just clarify, just for some notaries, I know this is going to be in the comments, on the nickel and diming fees. Yes, if a witness is required and it was not initially stated that a witness is required, it is okay to ask for a witness fee. And yes, as Chenelle pointed out, if there's an extra mortgage that wasn't disclosed, that's okay to ask for that. But generally,
Right.
everything else, probably not a great idea. Communication so critical. Again, call us from the table. Regardless, we can answer most of those problems, or call our clients on their cell phones, even if it's late at night, and get them to call and be on speakerphone and answer that and squash all that. That way you get the full fee, not a refuse to sign half fee or no fee, depending on which company it is. So always call us, because we want to be the hero for our clients for sure.
That's right.
All great points. I love it. I'm going to pivot to marketing a little bit, just so they can
Yeah.
steal some nuggets from someone who is very good at it. What is your favorite way to market?
Always start with in person. In person is usually the best, whether it doesn't have to be a full-on networking event where you're in the room with 100 people if that's too overwhelming. But even just going into a title company, and again, that can feel overwhelming. You have to just practice. It's the only way. If you're not comfortable in person, just practice. Sometimes walking into somewhere where you don't know someone might be easier, or someone where you do know someone might be easier, depending on how you feel about it. But in person is always, for me, the best first contact with someone. I have had clients other ways where that wasn't my first contact, but I say that's the most effective. And then the follow-up can be electronic. And based on how you meet them in person, it could be a Facebook follow-up, an email follow-up, even a text or a phone call. Or if you meet them at a networking event, then you could go into their office, or something like that. I mean, there's definitely a combination of ways to market, and you have to have a combination almost every time to really close the deal and to get that client. But in person is always best. Ultimately, even if you start with electronic, it's harder to get your personality through email and through text. And so the client, I find, is slightly less likely to know that they're going to vibe with you or connect with you. It's going to take them longer to figure that out on email. During the pandemic, I would say there was a little bit of an exception to that. I did get one of my best clients. She's still a client of mine today by email, but no one was in the office during that time. So it was a little more common, I'd say, to get clients by just email because no one was in person. And then we would build relationships over email. Even now, I have good luck building relationships over email, but they pretty much all started with either an in-person meeting or a referral from someone. I do have clients I've never met, but they were referred by someone who's met me in person.
Right.
And who knows me and who says, oh, she's like this and she's like that, because they know me in person. So the ones I've never met, and the ones I've never met, I've typically at least had phone calls with them. So they've heard my voice, they know how I am, and they see my personality on email as much as possible. But in person networking events, when I was brand new, it was really close to the pandemic starting, and I hadn't figured out, I had started looking for networking events, but I hadn't really figured it out that everything shut down. So my first networking events were like right as the pandemic was kind of opening up again. So it was actually good for me because it allowed me to only be doing real estate. Nothing else was open. So all I could do, and then when everything started opening, it was like these small mixers. And so they were kind of a tight knit group of people that were networking together. And a lot of them are still my friends and clients today.
So quick note, if you didn't catch that, when she was saying referrals are gold. So if you have direct clients and you're not asking them weekly or at least monthly for referrals to other people in their industry or other offices in their company, you are missing out, because referrals, you are slam dunk closing them all day long because it's basically yours to lose at that point. But I will say specifically, as a notary signing agent, could you give me, you're walking into a title office, what would be one of your pitches, let's just say, that you would give to the title officer once they get in front of you?
Yeah, I would want them to know that I put education first. I am someone you can rely on, and that I understand the industry. I will bring your documents back on time. I would sort of try to make the pitch not as much about you and a little bit about them as well. Typically, when I walk into an office, I might try to find something that I can talk about. Maybe they have a banner for a sports team or a little picture of someone, a grandchild or someone playing sports. So, or maybe there's something very obvious to talk about, like the weather. Like if it's super hot or super snowy, you can walk in like, man, I don't know how you guys are doing it in here. It's so hot. Oh my gosh. You kind of go with that. And then they'll be like, well, okay, but who are you? And they'll be happy. They'll start a conversation. Oh, but who are you? Oh, I'm a notary who you can rely on. I'm going to bring your documents back. You'll have no worries when you're with me. I understand the industry and I put education first. I would love to be on your team.
Love it.
I mean, that's just a basic one off, kind of off the top of my head, but it's really, it's kind of a combination. You have maybe practice it. I like practicing.
I agree. Practice.
So, and practice with a person, practice by yourself, practice with another person like this. You could get on Zoom with a partner and practice together. It seems really awkward at first, but it would be better to be awkward with your friend and then go be awkward with someone else. But don't expect yourself to be perfect. That's the other thing. It'll take a minute to figure out what yours is. Definitely try to find a component of talking about them. And as I say this, I don't always remember to do it. I'm in 4.5 years in, and I went into an office like a couple weeks ago and I was very intimidated because it's been years and they haven't given me any business yet. And I felt like I was a brand new person. I walked in there with my little cookies. I was a donut dolly that day. Right. And I walked in with the cookies. That's from one of our conferences. I walked in with cookies and they were actually in there having wine on a Friday afternoon, and they were like, "Oh, excuse us, we're just having our wine." I said, "Oh, perfect. Well, I brought something."
That's literally perfect. They're already in a good mood. It's Friday and they're drunk. Come on.
I'm hoping it was perfect. We'll see. They're pretty old school. They're kind of like, they're in this old part of town that's very set in their ways. So I'm sure that they have a really good relationship with somebody. But yeah, I said, perfect. I was like, oh, perfect. I have cookies to go with your wine. Here you go. Sometimes you kind of have to think off the top of your head a little bit. And then I did my pitch. And as I did my pitch, I didn't really say anything about them. I didn't really ask anything about them. There was, it was just, my heart was pounding and I felt kind of anxious. So that's going to happen to you. You can't really practice all of that away. And that's okay. It means that you care, right? That's what Mark always said on his coaching, that if you have nerves, it's because you care a lot. And that should be motivating to you to just keep going. You'll find your people, but definitely try to get something about them in there. Because if you just come in and go me, and you walk out of the room and they're like, oh wow, that person's full of themselves, so try to make a little bit about them, but definitely just let them know that you really care about this job and you really want to be on their team.
I love it. Yeah, definitely. I agree 100%. Ask questions about their business, whether that's researching like a super nerd like me ahead of time on LinkedIn or their website, or just what Chenelle pointed out, what you're seeing in the office. Or, I used to be so against going on a Friday, and now, I would say last year I started going on Fridays for marketing just out of lack of time. And
yep.
people's mood is really good on a Friday afternoon, not Friday morning. Friday mornings they're doing all the closings, but Friday afternoon and the weekends in like less than 3 hours, like people they're happy, they're ready to go.
They'll talk to you. They're excited.
There and say Happy Friday, and people love it.
And then you have something else to talk about, because then you can ask them what they're doing for the weekend. It's like an automatic. You walk into every office. Oh, what are you doing this weekend? Oh, what are you doing this weekend?
Exactly. And then when you follow up Monday morning via email or text or through DMs, you can say, hey, hope your weekend was amazing. How was that event with your kids? And then
exactly. That's perfect.
Second point of contact. I love it.
Perfect.
So transitioning to, okay, great. You are growing your signing service. You're going to grow that to whatever size you want to grow it to, which is the nice thing about this business, because you can grow your signing agent, signing service business to whatever you want, which is the nice flexibility about this job I love. But what is the, what's the end goal? And I know this answer may be different if I ask you in a year, but for now, what is the end goal in mind for you? Where would you like to see the signing service go? And what are you working so hard for?
Ultimately, I say time. I'm trying to buy back time to have freedom to do things with my family. Maybe it sounds cliche. It's 100% true. Although, I do have flexible timing. Like I can make my own schedule in a way. Although with all this responsibility of running a nationwide company, which is as big as that sounds, that's really what it is. There's a lot of these different aspects of running a company that my short-term, long-term goal is to not be in the day-to-day of it. to be having other people do some of the details so I can spend more time with my family, which I think growing it is part of that. And to invest in other businesses and other things such as real estate. I've already sort of started with real estate, but I want to ultimately just build out a life where it's secure no matter what unexpected things may happen. That's the basic. The basic is no matter what happens to me or my health, that my family is taken care of. So that is enough of an end goal, really, to just keep going no matter what. But assuming that my health stays very good and I'm able to work on that, then I want to have a lot of time with my family, go on vacations, make memories, give them, I mean, material things, yes. I got my kids' Barbie dream house last year, like that kind of stuff, like makes me so happy to do that for them. I never had one when I was a kid, and someone posted a question, I don't know, on some Instagram story where, what did you look at as being rich when you were a kid? And this guy, he thought that if you had a basketball hoop with a glass, like a plexiglass instead of a cardboard or whatever, that
Yeah.
that was being rich. And so it's like those little things, like for me, I've been able to buy my kids a house with a pool since I started loan signings. Like I didn't even think I was going to be a homeowner before I got into this business, and we can even go into that. It gets a little emotional, but I've definitely already accomplished a lot of those goals. I want more of that. I want more of those memories, more of those things, more of those, that time with my family.
Yeah, I think if I took a poll of every business owner in America, and the answer was, or that question was, would you like to have more time with your family, have less day-to-day grind in your businesses, and more time to do what you want to do? I'm pretty sure 100% would well, maybe 99%. There's probably one weirdo, but most people would probably say that's exactly what I would want. And I love that that's your answer, because like you said, the time is limited that we have, and your family is there, and they're only going to be ages 16, 18, 21 so long, and then it slips through your fingers. So I agree. My answer
Totally.
is very similar, but I love that that was your answer.
Yeah.
So what do you like to invest in? You kind of already alluded to real estate a little bit, or maybe other
Hmm.
businesses. Where do you think that could potentially be? Let's say
Totally.
things go really well, and
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
what
Things
could
go really well.
what
I'll
could that
own
look like?
I'll own a handful of different businesses, a handful of different types of properties if everything goes well. I already now, and through all those types of investments, will continue to be investing in my retirement accounts, my brokerage account, meaning basically stocks and bonds,
Sure.
and, specific mix of that. I always just have that auto transfer.
Okay.
So if I don't have time, like even if I have money to go invest in something like real estate and I don't have time to look for a deal, or whatever is happening, I don't have cash for a deal, I still have auto transfers happening. So I'm always investing in stocks. I'm always investing in there's a few different industries that I'm investing in there. And some of it is retirement. I won't touch it for a very long time. Some of it is in a brokerage account because you never know what's going to happen. And at least if the
Right.
money's there, I can still get it, even if there's some kind of tax liability.
Sure.
So I definitely just have those, which is not something I learned about till later in life. So if you're even a year or two or more younger than me, definitely start investing right away. My kids will be already investing before, many decades before I did, including in real estate and businesses. I expect my children to become business owners by the time they're 18, all of them. Just the way now that they're just used to this kind of language in our home. But that's something that I'm always doing. Long term, I'd say some commercial real estate, a little bit of residential real estate, which I've already started by getting the home that I have now, which will be a rental in a couple of years. And I'm excited about other opportunities. I know there's still a lot to learn since I'm just a few years into these kind of industries and this language. So I know I'll have other investment opportunities that will come my way. And I would encourage everyone to just stay open to them, but be educated about them. Crypto as well. I auto transfer into crypto and stocks constantly, all the time.
Nice. Nice. So the just quick question on the auto transfer to crypto. Are you
Mhm.
doing a trying to get the language right? You're mentioning so the uh I guess, is that going into a DeFi or a not DeFi?
It's No, not yet. I'm not like as advanced as like you and like my brother, but it's kind of like if you're just putting money in a money market account, but you're not putting it into a certain stock, you're not really investing it, right? Like it's
Right.
kind of like that. Like if I'm auto transferring it, then I still have to go put it into Bitcoin.
Oh, specific. I got you. Now I got you.
Right? Yeah, like I can transfer it into my like Coinbase, or I don't have like a separate, like my brother has a separate wallet that has keys and you
Yeah,
can't like even,
cold wallet. Yeah, yeah.
yeah, like, yeah, he does all that stuff. But this is just for me. And again, I'm kind of new, but I understand
Same.
the concepts of that. And also I had people like him explaining stuff to me many years ago, where if I would have been auto transferring and just putting it in there and not thinking about it, I'd have a lot more to work with now.
Sure.
But I've already seen it compounding to a small scale, where I'm very encouraged to just leave it in there and forget about it, because that's where I've seen, the biggest just ROI, I guess. I mean, it's not anything that I have used. I haven't pulled anything out to spend money on it. So it's not in a real time way benefiting me now, but I see where that's going to go. And I trust the information that I have. It's hard to invest in things that you don't understand. And in most cases, I think it's best to try to learn about it, listen to podcasts, read about it. If you're not sure about crypto or stocks, I did an extensive amount of listening and learning about how to allocate stocks and how I wanted that to look before I started doing it. And it's a small scale. Don't think because I'm talking like this like it's some big deal, but it will be, right, as I be able to increase my auto transfers and let it compound. But it also just gives me that little bit of a backup, even if I don't have time to let it compound. If something crazy happens and one of my kids needs a big surgery that I don't know, would it be covered for some reason, I have enough money in there to not stress about it. I can take that money out because it's part of my save. I have a separate savings account, but it's also kind of like just having a little safety blanket, and you feel like, okay. But as a business owner, I'm making sure that my expenses are covered by the money I'm making with my business. So this is all just extra.
Yeah, a couple things you mentioned. So definitely number one, probably the most important thing is just the getting educated about what you're investing in. And the people that will jump into something and then get scared and jump out, that behavior is usually caused just because they have a lack of education. So they don't have the confidence in that particular investment or that particular asset, depending on what it is, to know that, yes, there are ups and downs, but I know what I'm getting into and I understand the opportunity and I've done my homework before I jump in. I see it in, I'm in Airbnbs and short-term rental space, and there are plenty of people that get in when the market is doing very well, a la, COVID years and revenge vacationing time, where you could throw up an outhouse on Airbnb and have it rented out at $400 a night anywhere. And now the market's normalized, and you actually have to 80/20 rule again, perform and outperform. People are selling those bad boys left and right, and I love it because I'm just like just waiting to buy something on sale.
Right.
But yeah, do
Right.
your research 100%. And the other thing you mentioned, which I love, is that you're saying that it's not a huge scale, but it's not the amount at all that matters. It's the activity that you are
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
intentionally setting aside
Constantly.
money to invest,
Mm-hmm.
because number one, you're not going to want to work 80 years of your life or 60 years of your life. And number two, you understand that the more time you have in those investments, the more that will pay off. So, and third bonus, you're just teaching your kids the language of business, which was something I want to do too, because my kids are younger. They're 6 and 3, but they'll hear that a lot growing up too. So hopefully
Mm-hmm.
we'll have a similar experience and want to be in business or investing as well. But to each their own. We'll see. That's a long way from
They will, because they'll want money. They'll see their friends with stuff, and it's going to be trickier. It's harder for me to kind of convert my 15-year-old from spending to saving right now, but my 13-year-old is interested. She's like, "What's that thing where you like make money? Your money makes money?" And what's that account? And I kind of talked to her about like Roth IRA. She's like, "I need that. Let's do that."
compound
All right,
interest.
we're doing it, because she came to me and she's asking about it. So, and she hears me talk about it, but I think she heard about it somewhere else too and came to me with some interest, and they've seen me start a business, so that's it. It can only be good for them. They won't ever rent a home. That I can say.
Let's hope not, or for a very short period of time. But I think, we're probably in the same boat where we would want them to stay with us in their early 20s if their plan was to start a business, invest, buy a house, whatever. So
I'd love for them to stay. I don't think any of them are going to want to. Maybe the younger ones, but my 15-year-old, she's already like out in her mind. She's already out of here. So yeah, I'd love for them to stay here. Knowing what I know now about finances and what they'd be capable of, I would love to save them those expenses and give them tools. I already have my oldest out of the house. My oldest lives in Georgia and we're here in California. But I didn't start the business until my oldest was already a teenager. So they saw different things. It just wasn't as ingrained. Now, again, my oldest has seen this and watched it. I just don't think it's as much in his mind to do it on his own as it might be for my younger ones who feel very empowered that, oh yeah, of course I'm going to do that. Of course I'm going to have a business. It's just like the normal thing.
Well, it's going to be very normal if they're growing up around it. So I get that too. And just for fun, because these videos live on YouTube forever. As of the filming of this, Bitcoin is somewhere around 72,000, roughly. So we'll
Yeah, just up
see.
from 65 a couple weeks ago.
Yeah. So my prediction, and we'll see if this ages terribly or not. My prediction is the next halving is coming up in April of 2024, which is next month for us, roughly 6 weeks or so. And I'm sure it will just continue to go to the moon, and we'll see if this ages terribly or not. Leave those in the comments when you're watching this 6 months or a year from now, please.
That's funny. Well, if you've been following Bitcoin or crypto for any amount of time, you know that it does go to the moon, but it has big drops
Yes.
and then it goes back up. So right now it may be going to the moon, but when you see the big drop, buy more because
Yeah, I agree.
it's going to go back up. And then people, when you see the big drop, you're going to hear everyone say, it's crashing, Bitcoin's crashing, crypto's crashing.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's now, I'll say though, those big drops and swings back up were mostly previous to these big investments by these companies like BlackRock, JP Morgan and all that. So I don't know if that's going to shift it a little bit, if they're still going to have those big drops. I kind of expect they will, because crypto moves a tiny bit like the stock market, although more volatile, right? As far as the ups and downs, but up and to the right for the most part. So yeah, I would keep an eye on it, but from what I learned, and I didn't buy in until too late, that's my only regret, is that when it goes down, just like the stock market or the real estate market, it's on sale. And
Yes.
that's when you get the deal, because you buy it on sale and then it goes back up and then you're golden.
Yes. And I would say look at a longer time horizon. Look at a 4-year chart, look at an 8-year chart, so you can see kind of the history of it, and you'll start to see patterns, just like in most stocks. And yes, real estate for sure. When it's on sale, get it, because I have never heard anyone complain about the real estate they bought. I always hear people complain about the real estate they never bought, though. So take action, invest in something, but get educated first. I think it's the message.
Right.
Awesome. Well, we have
Cool.
covered a lot on this podcast.
Absolutely.
Was my goal to give people more perspective on you, Chenelle, successful signing service owner who will be in the 7-figure club very, 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 very soon, is my prediction. And which I think is like, it's a tiny percentage of all businesses that make it to 7 figures, but even a fraction of that were the women-owned businesses, which I love. So you are already in rarefied air, but it's going to get more rare as you continue to grow. And I appreciate you
Right.
being on the channel. Where can people find
Yeah.
you? I know we mentioned your website, so if you want to drop that one more time, and then best place to follow you on social.
Yeah, absolutely. The website again is mysuccessfulsignings.com. If they want to follow me on Instagram, they can go to Successful Signings, and Facebook, it should be the same, Successful Signings. Those will be the best places to follow up to see what's going on, and hopefully some interesting content, although Brad has me beat at that game right now.
It's just like anything, it's just time. Just start hitting record, and the reps will pile up, and you just get better. Just like any skill, as a signing agent, keep taking signings. As a social media
Totally.
influencer, just keep
Guru.
recording videos. That's all it is.
You're an influencer. That's so cool.
Oh yeah, that's a very loose term. Have 550 some subscribers. Let's go. Let's go. Perfect
Well, now you're gonna
segue.
have more.
Subscribe to the channel, people. Help a brother out. If you enjoyed the content, we're going to do more podcast style videos like this. I think I'm filming one later today with the peak signing agent, Derek Van
Ooh,
Ock,
Derek.
Utah, DVO. I was on his podcast last year, so he's doing me a favor and jumping on ours. So if you love the content, you love the format, leave that in the comments. If you have any questions for Chenelle about anything she's brought up in the video, drop her some comments there as well, and she'll get all the contact info for the video. I appreciate you being on, Chenelle. Thank you for joining us.
I
And,
appreciate you. Thank you very much.
and,
It was
and
super fun.
I'm looking forward to just seeing every year we get together, either at the conference or the mastermind or both. And every year we're just better off than we were. So it's nice. It's like seeing the next best version of each other each time we see each other. So I love it.
It's a very cool thing. Definitely being in the business this long now and now building these relationships with you and other ambassadors, it's a very cool, interesting progression. I'm super grateful for all these connections, and yeah, I can't wait till next year. I kind of hope we don't wait till conference for all of us to get together, but
I hope not, but
do what we
2024,
got to do. We're very busy.
2024,
I get it.
yeah,
Yeah.
2024 Loan Signing System Conference yet to be announced. So people stay tuned for that. I'm sure you'll find out at some point soon, like we're all waiting to hear when that will be. But thank you again for being on the podcast. It's always a pleasure. And like I tell everyone that makes it to the very end of these super long videos, you are the 1%. Thank you for hanging out,
True.
learning, and developing yourself. Those are the people we like to be with. And until next time, peace.